Yes, surely. Let's start. A very good evening to our esteemed speaker of today, Ms. Nirja Mani, our CEO, Mr. Subramaniam, all dear students and teachers and parents who are present here. It's indeed a wonderful topic, how to develop students as independent learners and thinkers. In my years of experience, I have come across different types of parents. Parents who go to the extent of, making students almost, making their children almost parasites, that for every little thing, they depend only on their parents. So, how do we make them independent? We need to teach children to fight their own battles, to become independent and strong individuals in the society. And how do they begin to learn as independently and not to be told ever so often that, yes, now it's time for you to begin learning. Okay, so when I thought about this topic, I didn't have anyone else in mind other than Miss Nirja Mani. And in fact, she was a little caught up with some other preoccupations. And for almost 2 weeks, I waited for her to give her green signal and join us. So Miss Nirja has been in this field of education for over a decade. She had her own preschool before she joined my team in Meridian as the head for global partnerships and a coordinator for co-curricular activities. She later on went on to become the PYP coordinator, mainly because of her excellent communication skills and her ability to be a quick learner. She has undergone 3 levels of IB training and almost taken as a fish to water the IB philosophy. She has several laurels to her credit. She won a high commendation for her Global Teacher Accreditation Action Research. She has won the Super Teacher and Best Teacher Award in 2016 and 17. She has worked at the International School of Hyderabad as grade 5 teacher, and she has done the core competency course with the British Council, and then she was made the school's ambassador by the British Council, and she later on became an independent consultant with the British Council, and which she continues till date. She's a very dynamic person, very approachable and highly focused. I'm so proud to say that she has been my Shishya. Okay, but I'm also equally proud to say that she is a Guruna Minchina Shishuralu, which means she has far surpassed my skills and my knowledge, and that is mainly because she is a voracious reader, and she grasps things so fast. I have yet to see Eka Santagrahi like her. She looks at things and she grasps it. And I remember that we used to always agree to disagree, and we have had wonderful Socratic dialogues. We, in fact, used to have, and that was so highly enriching. And we would each one want to, prove that, yes, this is what it is. And we would go back, read something more and come back and do it again. Because IB was a new ball game for us at that point of time, and we were all learners. Okay, and today there we have the wonderful Miss Nirja Mani. Over to you, Niru.
Thank you so much, Lalita ma'am. I am want to join my hands, and I'm so humbled by that beautiful introduction. But I really can very proudly say that I am where I am because of your mentorship and your guidance and your ability to see the best, the best strengths in people, and even be able to signal out their weaknesses that they can improve on. So I think that has helped me tremendously And there are certain things that you've said over the years that I'm going to even talk about as I take everybody through the presentation. So a very good afternoon, dear parents, teachers, CEO sir, wonderful. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And dear beloved students, without whom we are all non-existent as a profession. So you are the guiding forces that make us what we are. And when Lalita ma'am told me that I have to speak about students as independent learners, she's right. It is my passion to do exactly that. I think the time, the day, the age has gone where children can depend on parents or other people to learn. Because the plethora of information available today is mind-blowing. And if they do not know how to sift through that information and to take what is needed for them, that's going to be a problem for them as they grow up. So welcome everybody, and let's start the session. Yes, let me see how to go to, yeah. So here you're seeing two quotes, one by John Dewey and one by Tom Steyer. We will pay a heavy price if we insist on navigating the 21st century with a 20th century mindset. And if we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, we rob them of tomorrow. Now, I think John Dewey must have said it way back in what, 1950s or 60s when he was expounding his theories, but it is so primarily valid today. We cannot use the lens of yesterday to view students of today. We have to create an imaginative, futuristic telescope to see the children and what's going to happen to them in the future. Because we are in a data-ridden world. No longer, I mean, if I look at data given to us by IBM, what you learned today gets changed every 13 hours. 13 hours. That is not even a day. So we have to be ready. Children have to be ready to cope with that. They have to be critical thinkers and problem solvers. So how do we get them there? Let's have a look. Now, quickly using the chat box, I'm going to give you a total of 8 minutes, 4 minutes for these 4 questions. And then I will change the slide and give you 4 more minutes to answer these. In the chat box, I want quick answers, but I have only 2 conditions. No using any search engine. So no Google and no checking up your textbooks. Just answer it by what you know of it. So your time starts now, children. 4 minutes to answer this in the chat box. Parents, even you, especially you, and all the teachers who are here on this meeting today, even you people, please answer these 4 questions, and then I will change the slide in 4 minutes. Let me see if we have any answers coming up. I'm waiting. So just to give you a clear indication of what, yeah, so somebody is saying China for the first one. Excellent. Name and define the theorem shown on the right. Quickly, just bullet points. I'm not looking at paragraphs or tons of information. Pythagoras, correct. What is the definition of this theorem also? Quickly. What is diffraction of light? How do you explain the phenomena of diffraction? I'm sorry, there are 3 questions here and there'll be 5 in the next. Yes, everybody is saying China, China, China. Very good. Let's see. And we're talking of Pythagoras. Third one, what is diffraction of light? How do you explain the phenomena of diffraction? What is it? We know reflection. We know refraction. What is diffraction? Waiting for some more answers to come up before we shift the slide. Yeah, so China and Pythagoras seems to have been established. Nobody's given me the definition of Pythagoras yet. Quickly, if I can see some definitions. Just a one-liner. Yes, yes. So Shashwat has given me a definition. Absolutely. Sri Sai Datta has said bending of light is diffraction. Okay. Sai Charan says it's diffusion of light. Excellent. Let's see. Let's move on. Yes. Very good. I hope you're not using Google Maharaj. You're not allowed to use search engines. Okay. Let's move to the next slide now, since we know most of the answers here. Now, these are the next 5 questions that you need to answer. List the differences between plant cell and animal cell. Again, just points are enough. Give me any 5 poetic devices. Just draw quickly a circulatory system if you can and hold up your paper. I don't want it detailed again, just quickly. And then the 7th and 8th are between sugar and oil, which component provides more energy in the long term and why? And the last is, why are drums louder than a guitar? Both are musical instruments. Why is one louder than the other? Okay, somebody says chlorophyll for what? For the differences between plant and animal cell. Presence and absence of cell wall. Excellent. Cell wall, plasma membrane. Very good. The children are coming up with lovely answers here. Okay, plant cell has a cell wall, other doesn't. Okay, let's move on to poetic devices. Does anybody know those? Parents, teachers, give me 5 poetic devices. What about the circulatory system? Anybody has the answer for that? And I'm very especially looking forward to the answers of questions 7 and 8. Oh yes, Abhinav gives me alliteration, personification, excellent, repetition, imaginary and simile. Okay, literary devices used are okay, fair enough. What about 7 and 8? Time is running, just 2 more minutes. Between sugar and oil, which component provides more energy in the long term and why? We're yet talking about poetic devices. Are we looking at some circulatory systems? I just have 40 seconds to go. Yes, Arshia and Akash are saying oil is the one that has more energy. Somebody is saying sugar as it's composed of glucose. Fair enough. Then why are drums louder than a guitar? What is the reason? Can anybody say? Without consulting the net, can anybody say why drums are louder than a guitar? And time up. Okay, so we're going to quickly ask this question now, which is, okay, we can actually stop. Sorry. Let me go back to this before we see the answers. I want you to please answer this question for me. Could you recall all the answers? Recall is for the parents, for the teachers, and for children who are already have passed 10th and 9th. And out of these 8, which were the 2 questions that went beyond the book? So you have to tell me this in the chat box quickly. Could you answer all of them as I asked them? And which went beyond rote learning? So let me see if anybody has answers for me in the chat. Okay. No, I'm yet getting other answers. The reason I'm asking this question is because of this. Out of the 8 questions, these are the answers right here up for you. Print technology was developed in China, Japan, and Korea. Pythagoras theorem is a right angle square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of other 2 sides. And what is diffraction is explained. But kindly note, what is the resource that I've taken this from? NCERT Social Science grade 10, NCERT Math grade 10, NCERT Science grade 10. And the next lot, again, the resource is NCERT grade 10 and grade 9. But the last 2 questions are not from any textbook. They are just a concept-based thinking question. So oil has definitely the capacity to give more energy because it has more carbons in it and it will take time to break that down. And the frequency of drums is lower, so the sound wave will travel a longer distance as frequency is inversely proportionate to the distance traveled by a wave. Now, what is the purpose of doing this little activity with all of you? Let's see. Because we are going to ask ourselves, what is the aim of education? So quickly tell me, according to you, what is the aim of education? Before I tell you what I think it is, you tell me what is the aim of education. Let's see if I have something coming up in the chat box. Yes, I'm waiting for some answers. Tell me what is the aim of education? One word answer. Lalita ma'am, would you like to say something? To make us talented, says Jigyasa. To learn, to make the future, to make human life better. Absolutely. Very good answers coming up. Shashwat, Madhavi says for life application. Amazing. Yes. To make human life better. Absolutely. Yes, to get jobs, to achieve our goals. So you see, we all know the basic aim of education, and that is to focus on the human element first. Children, when I have taken those questions, the purpose behind them is to understand that when we give an exam or when we look at education now, and this is a caution, a word of caution for the dear parents on this group, when we look at education, we are looking at it as passing high school with a certain amount of grade and marks to move on to get a good admission in a known university to be able to then get a job. But is that the aim of education? It is not. The true aim of education is to be able to implement your learning in real time. And if you can't do that, then it is a waste. So we all know what Pythagoras theorem is. Can anybody tell me what it is used for? Can anybody tell me why we learn Pythagoras theorem? I would like to ask the parents and the children. Can anybody tell me why do we learn the Pythagoras theorem in school? What is the reason? Yes? Just give me any reason. Why would your teachers insist to know these theorems? What do they do for us in real life? Somebody saying syllabus. Okay. Because it's part of the syllabus, you're learning Pythagoras theorem. But that's not the real reason. Yeah, we can use it in real life, says Sai Charan. But how? What is the use of the Pythagoras theorem in real life? Very good. Somebody has probably Googled and come up with the answer of engineering calculations. Simply put, if you want to hang a shelf in your house, you're going to be using the Pythagoras theorem to hang it. So you should know the application of something you learn, because nothing is being learned without reason. So moving on, so we looked at the larger picture of the aim of education. Now let's look at subjectively. Tell me, what is the learning goal of teaching math or science or any subject in school? Why are we taking each subject and taking time to teach each subject to every child in school? Can anybody answer that for me in the chat box quickly? So you will have to work very fast with me because it's completely question based. I'm going to continuously ask you questions. Yes, trigonometrical application, somebody had said for Pythagoras. Tell me, what is the learning goal of teaching math or science or any subject in school? We can know many things from the subjects, fair enough. What are those many things? Better thinking, but of what? Ranusha, I agree. It is to think in a more lateral way, but to understand facts, to understand logic. Okay, what else? Let's see what it is for. So the aim of learning math or science is this: to be able to measure, construct, build, transact, conjecture, deduce, calculate, and apply in real life. It is not to write an exam. It's not for syllabic purposes. And the aim of science is again to inquire, to hypothecate, to experiment, to deduce, to understand, and again apply in real life. So learning something is of true meaning only when it can be applied. Otherwise, it's completely meaningless to learn. So, sorry. Yes. So as a community of learners, we have forgotten our learning goal. And the learning goal for all of us as parents, teachers, students, anybody who is a learner is to empower. So we have to empower ourselves. We have to be able to see, to think, to wonder, to apply, to deduce, to act, to ask questions, to inquire why. Why you should ask your teacher or your parent, why am I having to learn trigonometry in grade 10? Why do I have to study, grammatical terms in English or in any other language? What will I benefit from it? You have to empower yourselves by asking questions. So you have to own your creative process. And what is that creative process? Education itself is a creative process because it helps you tap into your type of intelligence to become creative the way you seem to think right. So the question to ask is not, am I intelligent? It is to ask, how am I intelligent? Because we all are intelligent in different ways. So I'm someone who's verbal linguist. I love to talk and deduce and gain information from that. Somebody would be an auditory intelligent person. Someone else is a kinesthetic learner who needs to write while somebody is speaking. So we are all differently intelligent, but we are all intelligent. So how do we empower it? Children, how do we empower you, children? We do it when we will engage you. So the problem of engagement is the problem of ownership. When you do not own your studies and you expect your teacher or your parent to constantly monitor you and force you or be behind you, it's because you are not engaged in your learning. And you have to ask this question to yourself today. Why am I not engaged in my learning? What is the reason? What am I not doing right? And there is no ownership because there is lack of self-direction. What is self-direction? Tell me that. If you know today that you want to eat chocolate today, what do? What will you do? You will try your level best to go to your mom or dad and convince them to give you the 20 rupees so that you can go out and buy a chocolate. And you'll keep on trying because you are self-directed, self-motivated to want to eat that chocolate. The same thing applies to everything in life. You have to be self-directed, and especially in learning. So we need to move from teacher, parent driven to student led. Children, you have to lead your learning. The time has gone where the teacher was in the forefront or the parent was. Now they will either walk with you or they will be behind you, shielding you, helping you, but not leading you anymore. You have to become the agents of your own development. And that is very, very important. And what is agency? In short, taking it from the definition of our democracy, it is for ourselves, by ourselves, of ourselves. Okay, it is a whole process of learning for ourselves. So we decide to learn something by our own hard work and willingness to do a work that will change a scenario. It will make it better so that we can be change makers, we can be game changers, and we can be doers. So we start taking action for change and betterment. And children, I've often seen, even my students come to me and say, oh, but I'm just a student. What difference can I make? Why not? If there is electricity wastage in your house and you've become someone who can control it and bring your electricity bill down, you've taken action. You've been a change maker. If you are not able to finish something on time, and you come forward and tell your teacher, I couldn't do this right now, but I promise you to do it in the next 1 week and submit it. Aren't you someone who's changing your own game? You're taking your own learning in your hands and saying, it's okay, I take responsibility of not having finished it, but now I will. And in this, parents have to support. We have to be together with our children saying, okay, I know I'm monitoring you, but this is your job to do. It is not mine to remind you every single day. So the start of being agency driven is providing choice and flexibility. Now, oftentimes, and I've had this discussion with Lalita ma'am when we were starting IB, where I felt there were so many things I was restricted by because of the system of the school and the government and generally what was going on. And as ma'am said, we used to have a lot of these debates where I would not be convinced. And then one day, just one thing that ma'am said has stuck by me and become one of my principles in life. And that is when she said, why do you always think you have to change the system? Why can't you work with the system or around the system? And I think that worked for me. Because choice and flexibility can be given within the system also. It's completely up to us. So I think children, do not tell me, or teachers for that matter, that I am bound by the syllabus. I have to finish this much portion in this much time. So I do not have time to go beyond what the textbook is asking me to. That's not fair. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to your learners. They have to have choice and flexibility, and you can achieve it within your learning time by using this beautiful creation by Harvard Design School. Actually, Harvard University has come up with Universal Design for Learning, which is a model that tells us how to make agency a part of learning. First of all, what is grossly missing in the Indian education system is equity. All children are being treated as equal, whether they are, and equal by what means? By saying that I don't like to write, but I will have to write 10 pages in my notebook. I can't speak, I'm afraid of speaking, but I will have to give a speech in front of this thing on Independence Day because it's my turn to do so. That's not equity. You're not helping the children, you're increasing their fears. Or otherwise, what happens is these children are sidelined or ignored, and that's not a solution either. So when you look at UDL, it says give equal opportunity by serving the needs of the learners. So what it does is it removes barriers. What you're trying to do is, okay, we are going to learn this today. Supposing the learning today is about water. You have to learn water resources, where is water coming from? Now, there are so many ways to learn that. Why are we sticking to what a textbook is telling us that we have to translate into a notebook? The child can exhibit his learning, his or her learning, in so many beautiful ways. There can be multi-sensory lessons. The environment can be flexible. And now, because of online learning, environment automatically became flexible. So incorporating UDL is a wonderful thing to do. And here are some examples that I have picked up, because UDL helps us to create maybe a podcast or a video. You can show what you know or you're learning through different means. And you can even create a comic strips. There are a lot of possibilities to show assignments, as long as you're meeting your lesson goal. Now, that is the catch point here. Not being able to understand your learning goal. So the first step of creating a good lesson plan is a teacher asking herself, what is my lesson or learning goal in this particular lesson? What do I want to tell the children? And then once she's clear and she projects it to the children need to ask, okay, what are my learning goals when ma'am is asking us to talk about or learn about this? So if you see a picture here, there are antibodies that have been shown through a sketch note, because the child told the teacher that I like to draw and I have all the information you've given me. Can I show it as a sketch note? And the teacher said, fine, as long as you're able to tell me everything that was taught today in class. So that kind of flexibility comes in, where a child is able to exhibit their learning easily. And I teach humanities grade 6, and I did an equality campaign, and I told them, show me these 8 aspects, because this is your learning goal, through whichever medium you want to. And they astonished me, because I had 2 children who had interviewed a learner somewhere from Nigeria. They took his interview and came back about how he feels about equality. So that's something I didn't train them or teach them to do, but they came on it by themselves. So that's what happens when you give choice and flexibility. So give them nice choice menus, and I'll show you a quick video of just 2 minutes for you to understand what a choice menu can look like.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and thank you so much for joining me today. So today I'm going to be talking about trying to promote student agency by giving students more choice and voice when it comes to communicating their conceptual understanding. So if you're interested in this topic, then please keep on watching. So you can see that I have a response choice board here for students to be able to choose from. And I like to pose this question to my students: how do I show evidence of my learning and understanding? And so there are a lot of different formats and different digital tools that we can use to help them to communicate, to articulate their understanding. And I've got a few suggestions here. So I've tried to put the little icons for each of the digital tools. For example, if you ask students to choose one of these different tools from the choice board and they choose the record podcast, then you might want to look at Audacity. Or if you want their...
So this link is available with ma'am, and you can definitely look at the video in greater detail. But when you see her choice board, you see the yellow part says your suggestions, which means a child is free to put something else there and say, this is what I would like to do. And if you look at the kind of choices given here, record a podcast, create a multimedia website, design a concept map, create an infographic, illustrate through a comic book, devise an instructional manual. See, the children are getting multiple choices based on their intelligence and their way of showing something. So a choice board or a choice menu is an excellent way to be agency driven.
Hi, everyone.
Sorry. Okay. Now here's a very interesting, way to have a child create their own or to sort of mark their own learning. So a learning target is, example in math, my learning target is I can identify a linear function by examining a graph. Or in social studies, I can determine the impact of World War II on women's rights movement. These are my learning targets. What are the resources I'm going to use to meet my learning targets? I will do crash course video. I may do a tutorial article, or I may do a flip video with a classmate. For social studies, I will do either a history podcast, I will take an article from Atlas Obscura, or I will choose the primary source documents. And what will be the product to demonstrate the mastery of the content? In math, video, I will give you a video explaining how I solved that. In social studies, I will give a podcast explaining women's involvement in World War II. So now you see, when you have a child decide what their learning target is, what are the resources they're going to use to meet that learning target, and what is going to be a final product, you as parents and teachers know exactly where is the child in the learning cycle of the class. So some more examples I want to show you of children who actually have done work by, you see how they've used math, how they've created their timeline of what they're going to do to study something. So when you use UDL, you can use visible thinking routines, you can use different assessments, you can do book reading assignments, you can do so many things that is based on experiential learning in math. So what the child on the right side has done is has taken a little bit of dough and toothpicks and created shapes for us. This is a grade 1 child. So we just put the question forward, how would you like to learn shapes in math? And they came up with their learning goals, and they told us what resources they will use, and the final presentation was done. And they understood shapes, and they could go ahead and learn it and project it. So the next step is to empower students to choose their topics. So you know that you have a set syllabus that you have to cover, which is mandated by the government of India, that a grade 1 or a grade 2 child has this much of learning base definitely to cover. So when you know that, you choose your topics that you have to cover within that time and tell the children, now you tell me, what do I do in this and what are the ones you want to learn first? And be ready to have different answers and tell them, okay, you can do this, provided you've met the learning goal and understood the concept very clearly. One way to do is to give them a Genius R. What happens in the Genius R is you give them, so now in the online scenario, there is a lot of paucity of time. I understand we are only able to go online, be live with children only for maybe 2 hours, because it's also not good for their eyesight or, so many other things. But Genius R can be done. They select their Genius R. So supposing a child says, my Genius R will be 3 to 4 in the afternoon. So then you're going to tell the child, in this Genius R, you're exploring math. This is the topic you're exploring because this is your weak point. So tell me, how can you improve it? Come up with ideas to make it better. And that's how Genius R's help. Another thing is to empower students to self-select their scaffolds. What are scaffolds? So sometimes what happens is a child is unable to answer math questions because they are poor in reading. So the problem is not that they don't know math. The problem is they're unable to read the problem in math. So the scaffold they need there is not math. They need language scaffolding. Similarly, a child may not be able to do technology very well because they don't have a proper gadget at home. So how do you scaffold technology for them? What do you do to help them there? So help children to empower and understand what is the scaffold they need and be able to tell it to you or to share it with you openly. And when they do that, they have a maker mindset. And what is a maker mindset? All of these things you see over here. They are ready for the creative economy. They make deep connections and ideas. They become system thinkers. They're growing empathetic, because how do you grow empathetic? When you realize your own weaknesses and your class or your peer circle is listening to you empathetically and saying, oh, we are here to help you, you suddenly realize the power of empathy. And that's what you offer to the other person. But when you come against a closed space where people are not understanding your problem, that's when you lose empathy completely. To cite an example, I had one child who came to me who was harassing the class every day. And this is when there was no online scenario. And then I told him, I said, you have to take accountability for it. He says, this is who I am. I am literally, not so many words, but that's what he gave me through his body language, that I can't change. I said, okay, accountability is necessary. What you're going to do is you're going to serve lunch every day in the mess to all the grade 1 children. You will serve everybody. After they eat, you will sit down and eat. And he thought it's going to be easy. He did it for 2 days. And third day he comes and says, I'm not going to do this again, because this is very difficult for me to do. I said, you have to understand that when you trouble someone, this is how they feel. So stop doing that. So somewhere accountability and empathy are very much hand in glove. Also, they become problem solvers. They engage in iterative learning. Iterative learning is very important. It is having a few steps that you will go over and over and over again till you reach your end goal. And this is what is missing. When a teacher complains to a parent, your child is not working hard, I think she means this, that they are not engaging in iterative learning. They are not doing the steps again and again and again to solve their problem. So these things, when you develop a maker mindset, all of these things come into play. So when I'm saying all of these things, I'm sure things going on in your mind are, where this is coming from. The step is to ask the questions. When a child is allowed to ask questions, they become more empowered to take responsibility. The moment you say, please don't talk now because I have to finish my lesson, you will see they have already zoned out. And in the online scenario, it is very easy to zone out, literally. Switch off the camera and just disappear for those 20-30 minutes of class. And that's not something you want. So please encourage them to ask questions. Give them 5 minutes at the beginning of the class or the end. Tell them, look, only 5 minutes, because I have only 30 minutes and I have so many things to talk to you with. So kindly ask your questions in these 5 minutes. Empower them to do that. And if you can't even give those 5 minutes, have one day in a week that you call a wonder day. And that wonder day is the day of questions. You will only and only be answering questions from every child, every grade, everybody. Answer your questions. And the children really look forward and wait for a day like this because they feel they are being heard. Another way to get them engaged, especially in the online scenario, is hands-on accountability has to be built in. Otherwise, a child will never, ever, as ma'am said, learn to do things on their own. Another example to give is this child comes to me and he's a 6th grader now and says, I don't like to write. I just don't want to write. Why do I write? I have a computer that if I talk to writes for me. What is the point of my learning to write? Now, what he's saying makes complete sense to me. It is true. You have speech to text. You talk and the computer or the phone is typing for you. So why do I need to write? So I told him just one thing. I said, if you can't and you don't want to write this for me, how will you show me that you've understood what I've taught you in class? He thought for some time and he said, can I make a project? I said, sure, make a project for me. So he makes this project, gives me the whole explanation beautifully, and he knows everything. But the catch point is he's yet not writing, which is also not okay because examinations further on will expect him to write. So here is ma'am's point of how to work within the system. So then I sat him down and I said, Do you like to put henna in your hands or your mom's hands? He says, yeah, they're beautiful designs. It's very interesting. I said, why? Why do you want to learn? Oh, it's just a skill. I said, similarly, writing is a skill. Just take it as a skill. Don't make it about writing for my test or writing in my notebook. It is a skill that will help you in many, many ways. So please answer their questions. Give them a way to understand why you are having to do something. The moment you say, I told you so, children of today will not tune into that. So the main point is that distance learning as it is today doesn't have to be in front of a camera. It can be very project-based. Give them projects of lessons you want them to learn. Start your lesson with the project. Start with the project. Instead of introducing your lesson and saying, today I'm going to teach you about the environment. No, today we're going to do a project. And what is that project? And give them the learning goals and say, go now, make that project and come back to me. And then we will understand where you stand in learn. So this is a beautiful launch cycle created by John Spencer. And courtesy to him, there is a lot of matter here that I have been inspired by John Spencer to create for you all. This is his launch cycle. He calls it the launch cycle because he says, if you follow this cycle, your learning is complete. So he says, look, listen. First, look and listen and learn. Then start asking your questions, whatever you need to. Understand the process or the problem to approach that. Then you start navigating your ideas. Create a prototype. Then after the prototype is created, it may have certain fixes it needs. So highlight that and fix it. And then you launch it to an audience. So launching it to an audience is equally important because then you will create a prototype that works. If you're not going to launch it to an audience, it's not going to work. So that is why it's a beautiful launch cycle that I thought all of you all should see. Now comes a very interesting thing, assessment. Now this is something our country is obsessed with. I mean, I have parents who come to me in PP2 and say, will my child be able to write engineering if he is going to be in IB curriculum? And I am startled and stunned because in PP2, the child should just be enjoying and learning to play and learning everything through play. But I'm being asked about assessment. So how and why are we an assessment obsessed country? Because we have forgotten our learning goal, as I said. We've forgotten to apply our education to real life. So now how do we make the children own this assessment process? First and foremost, parents, please understand, why do we assess? What is the reason to assess a child? Is it so that the child marks or grades show? Or is it to understand where the child is in the process of learning? That is the reason for assessment, to understand where the child is in the assessment process. So let's look at some ways a child can self-assess. Believe me, this is a very powerful way of assessing. Because when a child self-assesses, the child suddenly looks at the problem at hand and realizes and understands the mistakes. It becomes his or hers and they realize, oh my God, I've not written this well. Or, oh, this part of this problem is missing. They understand that. Let's see how we can self-assess. These are some of the self-assessment options that I use very regularly. Tracking goals. Have the students create their own goals at the beginning of the year. Self-reflection. They should answer reflective questions, and visible thinking routines really help. Student surveys. Sometimes a child cannot answer open-ended questions. They are not able to. They've not understood them. So what you do is you send out a survey, like a Google Form survey, for them to, be able to answer what they have learned, what they have understood, what they have not. Self-assessment rubrics. I have yet to see a more powerful tool than a rubric. A rubric really helps a child understand what they are expected to do. It's like a beautiful game that we play, and I wish we were in not an online scenario and we would have played it, is giving 3 members, calling them outside from the group and saying, you have to clap, okay? And I have presented a rubric to each person inside. So the first instruction I've given is just clap, go inside the room and keep clapping. The second person I've said, you have to go inside clapping and dancing. And the third person I've said, you have to jump, clap, jump, clap, jump, clap. Now my rubric inside with everybody says, bid the contestant jump, clap, jump, clap, jump, clap. Now, are you understanding what I'm trying to say? My how do you say, my explanation to my contestants was not clear. To the first one, I only said clap. So how is he or she ever going to be marked fairly on the rubric? She didn't understand the instruction. So having clear instructions at the beginning of the lesson is very important. And then checklist. Create a checklist to see whether this task has been done properly or not. As I said, Google form surveys, very powerful. Second type of assessment, peer assessments. Let's see peer assessments. So now I've given you a peer assessment, which is a 10-minute feedback routine. So the first 2 minutes, it's called elevator pitch. What it does, a partner A explains whatever they are doing in 2 minutes. So directions for partner A, explain it. Directions for partner B, take notes on whatever the partner A is saying. Next 2 minutes, ask clarifying questions. Next 2 minutes, give feedback, then paraphrase, then next steps. Now this rubric is very clear. There's no ambiguity. Each of them know what they have to do. So when you give clear guided instructions, assessments are more meaningful. So here are some peer assessment options. As I said, 10-minute feedback, structured feedback with sentence stems. So you provide specific sentence stems that can be used as diagnostic, clarifying, or critical feedback stems. So I could not do the project on water because that's a diagnostic statement. I understood that water flows downwards, but I could not really understand why it cannot flow upwards. That's a clarifying stem that the child can use. So you have to be very specific in giving the sentence stem. 3-2-1 structure. So they will just provide 3 stems, 2 areas of improvement, and 1 question they have. Feedback carousel. You can have them talk to each other as a class routine, and peer coaching. The child, and here it is not the intelligent or the one who is smarter coaching the other. It is also about who's understood it better. So a child who usually doesn't understand something may have understood this better than anybody else in class and can coach the other person. So this is some type of formative assessments. And to very clearly describe the Indian schooling system, where you have unit tests, slip tests, and then you have the half-yearly exams. So let's put them into 2 categories. The unit test, slip tests, all the routine tests are formative assessments, and all the exams are summative assessments. So to describe it simply, formative assessments are you drinking the soup to find out if it is okay, tastes well. And summative assessments is when the guest drinks the soup and tells you whether it is okay or not. Please keep that in mind. So a summative is the sum total of your learning, which will tell you what has the child finally learned. And the formative is your constant monitoring. Have I taught the child well? Have I taught the child well? That is your formative. And there are some formatives here that I have shown. Temperature gauges. Immediately take an assessment. You've taught a concept, ask a quiz, create a quiz immediately and ask. Break points. So this is, you've taught certain amount, stop your instruction and go back and revise it. Student directed, self-evaluation. At the end of the lesson, please give me 2 things you've understood from this lesson. I use student direct assessments literally every day in class. And comprehensive, here is that is your summative. End of the year thing. So now I'm going to show you a few assessments, and you have to tell me which of these are self-directed or not. So please understand one thing, an assessment is meaningful only if timely feedback is provided. So supposing I've taken a test and then I have, yes ma'am, you're raising your hand. So, okay ma'am. So assessment is meaningful only if timely feedback is provided. If I've taken an assessment and I've not told the child anything about it, or for that matter, even the parent for the next 20 days, it's completely meaningless. You have to give the feedback immediately so that the child can learn on it. So now look at these quickly and tell me what techniques are these. And I really want parents and teachers to engage and tell me what kind of assessments do you think these are. Okay, Ms. Ankita asks her student to answer 5 questions as a do now before her math lesson begins. The students who have all 5 correct may skip the whole class and jump to the class assignment. Okay, now what kind of assessment is this? Is it a summative or is it a formative? Can you put it in the, yes, somebody has said formative. Very good. Okay. All fourth graders take a chapter test to assess their mastery level at the end of the unit. What is that? The second one, all fourth graders take a chapter test. Summative, excellent. During Ms. Bhashwati's English class, children participated in several activities designed around writing complex sentences. At the end of the day, the students were asked to write what they learned today. That was collected on index cards. These exit tickets were what Ms. Bhashwati planned her next day's lessons on. What is this? Is it a formative or a summative or a reflective one? Is it a temperature gauge? What is it? Yes, it's a formative. Very good. As Ms. Kalpana returns the research papers on the civil wars, the children see the attached rubric for the final grading. What is she doing now? Yeah, 3 is formative. I agree. What about the 4th? Yes, she's planning a summative. She's giving the child to understand how she will grade them when she gives the main assessment again. Last one, Miss Archana is making the children color different animals. She's also asking the children to attach a feeling or an emotion to the picture verbally. What is this? The 5th one. It's a formative. Very good. So you're getting the gist of how we can do different formatives in classes so that, we can give a lot of variety to the children. Okay, look at this wonderful thing here. One second. I'm going to try to, yeah. Now, I've given you a topic or a concept called Earth. When we teach Earth, what are the aspects of Earth we teach? We teach the science of Earth. What is it made of? We teach its part in the solar system and the universe. We teach, the latitudes and longitudes. How do we map the Earth? We teach who explored it. So many things we teach. But the mistake we do is the social studies teacher will teach latitude and longitude in the beginning of the year, and the math teacher will teach coordinates at the end of the year. If we were to teach coordinate geometry along with latitude and longitude, the child will never forget. The reason is lines of longitude and latitude are nothing but coordinates, lines of coordinates to map where you are at a certain time on Earth. So your math and social can get encompassed like that. Now comes in the English teacher. If she starts talking about instructional text or summative text and teaches explorers to them, like Vasco da Gama and Columbus, and makes them write essays or debates or discussions on that, you've covered another part of the Earth. And then science can definitely, at the moment when you're teaching of latitudes and longitudes, the magnetism, light, air, elements can be taught simultaneously. So you see, instead of teaching it in parts and parcels where there are no connections being made, when we put it all together, it becomes a wholesome learning that this is what the Earth is about. And what are the challenges we are facing currently? There's a lot of gap between theory and practice. That was the beginning, what I said at the beginning of my session. If we cannot put theory into practice, we have failed. It is time consuming because we are expected to, we're expected to showcase or finish the syllabus in a certain amount of time. And sometimes the syllabus has things that can definitely be left unsaid until next time. Insufficient revision time. We don't have time to revise things, especially in the online scenario. With time being so short, where is the time to continuously revise something? Parental concerns. Parents are upset or they are worried about their children because they are realizing, how are we going to cope and learn everything? And the rigid assessment system. I think that is the worst of the challenges faced because we have to make the assessment system less rigid. So what is required? What is required is let students explore themselves. Let them play while learning. Turn a lesson into a project. Why do you have to keep it at a lesson level? Stop being an expert. We suffer from the expert syndrome. All of us. We feel we know more. The parent feels we know more. And that's something that is harming the child more than helping them. Have a plan for questions. Again and again, I cannot reiterate enough. Children need to ask questions. Teachers need to ask questions. Parents need to ask questions. create a platform for that, and always appreciate student participation. So when you become flexible, these are the benefits that you see. You're giving the right motivation to have the right attitude and perform well. You're shifting ownership from yourself to the people who actually should have the ownership. That is the children. And it will align with competency-based approach to learning. Now, I don't know how many of y'all are aware, I'm pretty sure everybody is, that the National Education Policy 2020 is completely aligned with competency-based approach to learning. Indian education system is realizing that they followed the British industrial system for a long time, and it has created a huge gap in the learning. We are the largest youth population in the world, and we are losing our youth to other countries because of lack of good opportunities. So we are always veering towards medical and engineering. Why? The research has clearly showed that out of the 1,000 children who learn engineering, only 2 become engineers. Rest deviate into MBA, this, that, banking system, because there is no place. There is no creativity in the engineering that is going on. So we have to open our minds now. And even the Indian education system is realizing that. They are dropping subjects and getting in creative subjects to help children learn better. It leads to development of autonomous learners, maturing the teaching learning environment. And the most important thing, it prepares learners for life. I can definitely say that I'm a lifelong learner. That's a claim every child and every teacher should have to make. I am a lifelong learner. And when I teach, there are so many times where my children astound me. They come to me and say, "Ma'am, what is this?" And I'm like, "I don't know this answer. Please give me just one day, I'll find out and tell you." And I learn from them. Simple things like screen sharing, they teach me. "Ma'am, you know what? You mute this and do this, you'll be able to screen share properly." Such a beautiful thing that they take that agency in their hands to do this. Just before I end for the day, these are some of the wonderful assessment tools that we use. There is Quizlet, there is Padlet. Padlet and Quizlet is obviously to create quizzes. Padlet is a beautiful self-reflection tool. Children can do wonderful reflections on Padlet. Edpuzzle really helps in mathematics. Kahoot, we all know, is a wonderful tool. Again, quiz-based, but you can create your own questions. I'm currently using Wakelet, which is wonderful. Nearpod, excellent. Then we have Seesaw, which is also a free learning engine, and it's beautiful. Flipgrid is very good. Insert Learning. So these are some things that are already available for us to do formative assessments for teachers. And I've added a website here, shakeuplearning.com, which you can use as formative tools for your classroom. So I'd like to end with this and say thank you very much. I hope this session has been useful. And thank you for giving me this opportunity, sir and ma'am.
Thank you so much, Nirja. It has been such a captivating session, I should say. I was totally glued to the system, and it brought back a lot of memories, and how we had extensive discussion on voice, choice, and agency, and how we brought in these kind of assessment tools and other things. Wonderful. And dear parents and teachers and all present here, it is very, very important that we teach the children, we empower them to be learners. They should be taught how to learn. They should not be spoon-fed and given everything, but they should learn how to learn. They should learn how to relate what they learn to real life. And they should also learn how to make the right choices in life. Very, very important for every single individual. And I would now request our CEO. Incidentally, Neeru, our CEO is a tech whiz. There's a lot we have all learned. We are still kindergarten students in front of him. Okay, and he will now moderate the question answer session. Over to you, Subi sir.
Thank you very much, Lalita ma'am, and thank you very much, Niraja ma'am, for taking very wonderful session. Children, if you wanted to ask any questions, please go ahead and put it in chat window, or you can in fact raise hand so we can unmute you and then you can ask ma'am question directly. Any children who would like to ask questions over here? Any child? All right, let me see. I think I seem to have received. Okay. I think all the parents and students are sending, little appreciation notes. That's what I can see. I think session was indeed very good one for all of us. Ma'am, I have one question. In terms of promoting agency, especially among, grade 6, 7 kind of students, right? That's where they stop kind of, listening to someone like, the teacher or the parent kind of thing, right? What kind of, steps as a parent we can take, especially children who are start getting into, adolescence kind of age?
So just to give you an example, sir, I also, as I said, I teach humanities to grade 6.
Okay.
And there is one specific child in my class who never submits things on time. And he's always putting it on the parent that, today I was taken out here. Then, so finally I called him out one day and I said, what is the problem? Why are you not doing your work? Is it not interesting for you? Are you not understanding what I'm trying to teach? Then he says, no, nothing like that. He looks at me and says, you won't scold me. I said, no, I'm just very lazy, he says. I said, okay, so if you're lazy, what else do you not do? Do you not watch TV? Or do you not eat your food? Or do you not play your video games? He says, no, those things I really like. I said, that means the crux is you're not liking what you're doing here, isn't it? Then he was stunned. I said, you're basically telling me that you don't like learning or you don't like to learn humanities. He says, it's not like that. I said, so what is it? Then he said, no, ma'am, you're right. I never thought that, I thought this to be like a burden. I said, why are you taking learning as a burden? So I think what happens is, and you're right, 6th, 7th, and 8th, middle school is the time when they're really distracted. New things have come into fore, they are allowed more privileges by the parents. Some of them get their first mobile phone. Some of them are just making more and more new friends. So they're kind of distracted. It's not that they don't like to learn. Here is the time where agency is the most important thing, because here you will have to now tell them that, as I said, make it project based, give them the onus. The person who's doing the least work has to become the captain of the ship. He has to take, or she has to become someone who's going to be responsible for, leading the other class. So these are the ways where you can inculcate agency. And I always tell my parents that we are on the same side. I may be in the school and you may be at home, but our single point of, touch base is the child. So we are on the same side. So help us do this. So in case of the boy I'm talking of, I wrote an email to the mother saying, this is what he has said. I need your help. You will have to restrict his game time till the time I can give you feedback that he has started doing his work. So the day his mother stopped his game, he was very unhappy and he did not come to class. And the mother she panicked and she wrote back to me saying, ma'am, he's not even attending class. I said, leave it. 2 days, give him 2 days. And by the 3rd day, he had logged on and he started doing his work because he realized that this is important as much as playing his game. So these are the small ways that I deal with agency. I just throw the ball in their court, sir. That is what I do. So Ms. Rashmi here has asked a question saying, ma'am, as a teacher, how can we motivate the children to turn on their videos during online classes, especially when it's a challenge for the higher grades? I completely agree. It's a huge challenge. The moment you ask, I mean, I have a 12th grader, so I know. Half the time her camera is switched off. But what I do with my 12th grader is I give her incentive that if you switch your camera on 3 days a week, I will let you do this. So I think it has to be incentive based from a teacher also. Make them understand, look, I'm teaching you this concept that is very important. When I'm teaching the concept, have your cameras on. After that 10 minutes, you can switch it off. No problem. When I'm giving you notes and things, switch your camera off and sit comfortably. I have no problem. But when I'm teaching the concept, please have your cameras on. So make it as an essential agreement in class that every day, at least 20 minutes, you will give me camera time and I will give you non-camera time for 10 minutes. Many children are happy and they agree because they get those 10 minutes on their own. Yes, so somebody's saying the processes given were amazing, but as we start to do this stuff spontaneously, we tend to just go to the old Ratta Marna process and just tend to exhaustively learn. It's a mindset that you will have to change. I think Shashwat has asked this. It's a mindset you will have to change, Shashwat. You will have to not look at learning as if you're sitting in a jail. You will have to look at learning as your ticket to freedom. Please understand that learning is your ticket to freedom. You learn it in the way you like it. If you're sort of phasing out in class when your teacher is learning, record the session. Tell your teacher, I've recorded the session. I will listen to it because I like to listen to things, if that's your strength. If you think taking notes is important while your teacher is talking, doodle, no problem. Let her know and doodle. Tell her, ma'am, my hands are constantly moving. I like that. So I do that too. When I'm listening, I'm usually doodling. That's how my thinking gets better. So whatever it is that you want to do, make your teacher your friend. You tell her or tell him, please, this is how I learn. Help me do that. There are children in my class who shake all the time. It's so difficult to concentrate because this boy is constantly shaking in my class. But I told him, I said, you know what, go ahead, shake. As long as you're giving me the concept at the end of it, I'm all right with it. So make friends with your teachers and tell them what you're feeling so that they can support you. Don't make a great divide and hide from your teacher. There's no need. And there are many ways of learning and many types of learners. And you could just be one of the types. It's perfectly fine. Okay, I am Deepak, parent of Shashwat. How should we motivate him to achieve his goal? He's doing well, but sometimes he's distracted. Okay, so I'm sorry. I just would like to say that distraction is a part of growing up. It is completely, immensely important. So let your child be distracted. It doesn't matter. If the child is able to go ahead and achieve whatever the child has decided for the day, then he's done well. So just distraction is a part of growing up. You cannot take that away, and do not take it away, because that is their space where they are actually growing and learning. And sometimes with my daughter, I have seen many times in class, her camera is off and she's sitting like that. And I'm like, what are you doing? I just walk into the room. I'm like, you're not even listening. She'll just hold up hands. Why do you think I'm not listening? Just because I've had, I'm just, in my zone, but I know everything the teacher has said. So distraction is healthy. It's all right. Okay. All right. I think somebody's saying it's done. So
I think, thank you very much, ma'am, one more time for, taking a session and answering, patiently all the questions that we had. Lalita ma'am, over to you to close the session.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. First of all, thanks a lot, Nirja, for this wonderful session.
thank you.
There have been tremendous takeaways for me personally, and I'm sure for all the people present here in the audience. And we will definitely have one post-pandemic, have you visit our school and take a session for all our teachers and students.
Thank you.
And thanks a ton. And thank you, Subramaniam sir, for,
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
the parents, teachers, children. Wonderful spending this afternoon with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.